at the Skyview Motorsports desk. I'm Roy J. Akers. We have the High Bank Fury Zoomcast / podcast today. I have Dustin Long from NBC Sports, Bob Francis from GoFullThrottle.net. Gentlemen, I'll tell you what, I just enjoyed all the racing all summer long, and I think that Watkins Glen, some people call it a snoozer. I don't. I learned a few things. How about you guys?
Well, I mean, certainly with Shane Van Gisbergen made it look easy, and but again, I think that's a credit to his talent. And you think about this is what he's able to do and win four straight races on road course, street course type of thing. And again, this is an era where these drivers have all this data and they can study all their competitors and they can see what some of the things they are doing. Now, there are some things inside the car with how he does Shane Van Gisbergen does things that other drivers can't do, but there's still ways maybe you can counter it. But that they haven't been able to be as successful yet is a testament to what SVG's been able to do. Of these four road course races in a row that he's won, he won at Mexico City by 16 seconds, and he won this past weekend at Sonoma by over 11 seconds. So
Yeah.
again, these are he's beating some really really talented drivers. So it is not like again it's just amazing what he's doing against this talent of a field. Now, again, it's kind of the opposite when we get to ovals, that he's the guy who doesn't have as much experience, isn't as good, is learning and getting better, but has a lot of catching up to do to the rest of the field, and just as the rest of the field's trying to catch up to him on these road and street courses.
Bob.
Yeah, I think well that was a master class, and we saw the sort of the all of the complaining out there in NASCAR fandom about how many road courses this year, and they were sort of stacked during this summer period. I think led to, but the inevitable turnout happened. The driver I'm really watching and the results I'm looking at to see. Is there another storyline here besides SVG dominating? And that, for me, was Michael McDowell, who's always been very strong on road courses, qualified sixth. But boy, a combination of some bumping and banging with his own teammate Carson Hocevar, combined with some maybe not the greatest pit strategy and tire call, he ended up back in traffic and could never work his way back through, finishing 19th. To Dustin's point, though, you saw the master class. You saw someone who has demonstrated great command of the Gen 7 car on road courses and executed perfectly. Great pit strategy. They had a plan going in. They executed it perfectly. Great battle in that first segment with Ryan Blaney, though. And that really demonstrated that, even some of the guys more dominant on ovals can go toe-to-toe with SVG, at least for a short term.
Yeah, there were only 6 leaders in this race. 73 of the laps were led by SVG and also Ryan Blaney. Like you say, only 6 are on there. Kind of a concern that I have 5 years ago, Dustin and Bob, would you have ever not had Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson as on the short list to win this race? Because they have been going in the opposite direction the last couple of years.
Well, it's Hendrick Motorsports has been so strong on the road courses, and they've won at least one road course race for several years. I can't remember what the streak is at this point, but it's a lengthy streak. Yeah, it's been a tough go this year on the road courses, particularly for Kyle Larson. I think he's finished better than 30th just once so far this year on the road courses. Had the mechanical issue, the brake issue, went to the garage for repairs, but did get the fastest lap award, the extra bonus point for that. And he did that at Mexico City. Just remember, they had a mechanical issue or had an issue and went back to the garage for repairs and work on the car, and then came back out several laps way behind and still, put them out on a clean track away from the rest of the field and got the fastest lap. So they're maximizing things to the best of their ability. Chase Elliott, finished 26th. First time he's finished outside the top 20 this season. So, I'm going to cut him a little bit of a break on that sense. I mean, he's consistent. He's only 42 points behind teammate William Byron for the points lead. So it's not like the world is coming to an end for Chase Elliott. I mean,
No.
he's still, hey, look, if something happens to William Byron the next couple of weeks and Chase is able to capitalize, Chase Elliott could be the regular season champion. And people say, well, he's only got one win or whatever, but again, it's about building to the playoffs. And look, Joey Logano only had one win last year and then won 3 races in the playoffs and won the championship. So, I'm not in a panic mode about Chase Elliott. If there's a concern between the two, I have a little bit more questions or concerns about Kyle Larson, just for the fact they've been so up and down. Now we've seen that out of that team and him in the past because of his aggressive style, and it works so well in getting the wins. But sometimes it doesn't work as well, and they have some issues. But I'm not as worried about Chase Elliott at this point. Do I look at him as one of the 2 or 3 favorites at the playoffs at this point? Maybe not. So maybe he's the next tier. But I don't think it's as bad as maybe what some people might be thinking for Chase.
Yeah, my comment simply was on the road courses only, not
Yep.
on the season as a whole. Absolutely not. Yeah, not at all. I will say that 3 drivers I got beat by Catherine Lage patches this week. That was Josh Bilicki, JJ Yaley, and Kyle Larson. That's just a little crack there, but I'm glad to see Catherine, in the race and she did finish 36. What we're going to do right now, we have Justin Marks in the green room, and Justin, after working with SVG, you've experienced his work ethic firsthand. Justin, what have you got to tell us that we don't already know about the driver known as SVG?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this day and age in the Cup Series, it takes a huge commitment because the series is so competitive, and it's the accumulation or the aggregate of so many small things that end up in success in the Cup Series, and that's data, simulation, really understanding the cars, understanding the development of the cars, and how things change week to week, all of that, and Shane's just proven very, very quickly that he likes to live in that area, that bubble of just really understanding all the technical details, understanding how the cars are built, and just what it takes to go fast. And I think that, and there's also just not a lot of noise. It's just the work. It's just getting in and doing the work, and putting in the hours and the focus when that's really what's required to go fast these days, is really to understand these race cars and understand the technology, the aero, and how to get the most out of them. So, I think that's probably contributed to how fast he's been able to develop on the ovals. Is just, he's a student, and he watches tape, and he watches the races and looks at the data, and really asks the questions of why. And I think that, at this day and age and at this level, that level of commitment, that level of focus, and that level of intelligence are real factors in being successful. And he just demonstrated that from the first time he showed up, even at Chicago in 23.
Gentlemen, you heard Justin Marks. He obviously has himself a raw talent. Not many drivers get a shot when they're 34 years old. Now he's 36, but he's certainly the exception to the rule, and he has rewarded Trackhouse Racing, Justin Marks, and has captivated the NASCAR world.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I just think that, I give a lot of credit to Justin Marks. Justin talked about when he came in as an owner that he needed to do and was going to do things differently. He looked at the schedule, looked at how things laid out, and that was led to the creation of the Project 91 program, where they were going to try to run it primarily at road courses and bring in some world drivers who were used to road course racing. Obviously, SVG winning in Chicago in his first race, kind of changed the direction of that program. But again, Justin took that and was like, look, there's 4 to 6 road course races a year, most of them in the regular season. You get this guy in the car. He's so good. The talent, the work ethic, everything about him. And hey, you may be able to get a victory or 2 or 3 or something like that and get a car in the playoffs. So this is a way to get a car in the playoffs. And look, every other team, except for those who had except for the 4-car operations or max out, but every other team had the opportunity to put something together to try to get somebody like this. And Justin had the foresight to make this happen. And this is the payoff: is SVG's won 4 races. He's putting himself in a better position to advance to the second round. And if he does that, second round's got the Charlotte Roval, he will be one of the favorites. So then he could be into the third round. So think about this. This plan of SVG for getting SVG in the car could net Justin Marks and Trackhouse a car that gets to the round of 8 if everything works out right.
Bob, you have the final word.
Well, just look at the number of wins by organization. Trackhouse, with the success of SVG on the road courses, has more wins on the board than Penske. That's kind of shocking all in itself. So good on Justin Marks. It's shaking up NASCAR from the owners. He's a risk taker, and it's paying off. That's great for fans. That's great for viewership. That's great for excitement on the track. I'm looking forward to see how far they go in the playoffs.
On the other side of our break, we actually have in our green room, SVG is getting ready to answer our question. We're going to find out if it's really that easy for him. We'll find out the skinny in 30.
There's a place no map will show you where GR cars turn into full-blown track beasts. Every apex we nailed, every second we shaved, it's all knowledge that goes right back into your ride. You in?
This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are found multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today.
Dustin, Jace, Shane, Stephen was just in here mentioning like how no cup race is easy to win. You obviously make it look pretty easy. So like from your standpoint, how hard is it for you?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. Like the first stint, Ryan was driving really well and his car looked really good, a little bit better than ours at that stage. And then at the end of stage 2, when all the pitting was happening and all the strategies sort of went their separate ways, I really didn't know how it was going to be. And I just had an amazing start to stage 3, managed to pass people before the tires got hot and got a gap on all the people that were on the same strategy as me. And yeah, definitely not easy. Like the last stint was okay, but that stint, that's when I was pushing flat out. And yeah, pretty cool to do that. And then you get that tire delta as well, and I could sort of cruise and know that I had decent tires if the late yellow came.
Well, SVG, fellas, said that no cup race is easy to win, and I would say that we would all agree on that. That's kind of an easy answer. Any comments on what SVG said?
Well, he makes it look easy.
Right. And you got to compliment him on the dog coming to pit road to victory lane. That's just yet another. If someone said someone was going to bring a dog with them to victory lane, I would have guessed that would have been Alex Bowman, who's well known for his pet safety and pet advocacy. So to see SVG with his dad there and bringing the dog in, what a great way to celebrate the win.
Yeah, that was fantastic for that. SVG, we want to thank you for taking a few minutes. He's actually also going to be on with the Daytona next week because he's going to be talking about his oval racing and a question that he took, the final one he took on Sunday before breaking up and heading home. We are going to be talking about Richmond. We're going to take about another 30-second break, and you're going to find out more about the High Bank Fury podcast and more with Dustin Long, Bob Francis, and myself, Roy J. Akers.
There's a place no map will show you where GR cars turn into full-blown track beasts. Every apex we nailed, every second we shaved, it's all knowledge that goes right back into your ride. You in?
This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are found multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today. Well, gentlemen, what type of racing are we going to see at Richmond this weekend? Last year, there was a lot of tire fall off and a crazy last lap accident. What says you on how things are going to be different in 2025, or will it?
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously last year's race had the option tire and the prime, so there were two sets of tires that teams could use. There'll only be the one set of tires this year. It's a little bit of a change, and I think the one side, right side tire is what was used at Richmond last year. So tire fall will still be a key thing. Look, the last few races at Richmond, there haven't been as many cautions, so you've seen a lot more green flag pit stops. And it'll be interesting to see what the strategy is if it's that type of thing where teams pit and how. Now, if you get a lot of cautions and cautions start breeding cautions, then it could really kind of upset the apple cart and really kind of change things up. So, look, it'll be a fascinating thing. I think the thing that intrigues me as you look over the last few years is in the last, we're now 2 races ago, but in the last 3 races of the regular season, that there's been a new winner most of the last few years to have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. Now most of the time it's been at Daytona, and obviously it would have been the case last year at Richmond with Austin Dillon if he hadn't been so aggressive. In the incidents with Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin on the last lap, if he could have still held them off, then he would have been able to make the playoffs. But obviously, was penalized for those actions, kept the win. But look, Austin Dillon was strong throughout that race last year, and I think it's easy to forget that based off of his actions on the last lap. But again, you look at is this a race that Austin Dillon or Kyle Busch with Richard Childress Racing can step up and kind of upset things and get a victory and move on to the playoffs at this late moment. So it'll be fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see what happens. You just never know. We can predict everything, and then once they throw the green flag, it could go in a totally opposite direction. So I'm fascinated to see what happens at Richmond.
Dustin was obviously watching my fantasy team about anything can happen because all the data said one thing and it turned out to be very different at Watkins Glen. But I think, the big question on the board is from a data standpoint, all the data science and facts and figures say this is Denny Hamlin's domain. It's his home track. He's dominated here, especially in the next gen car. He was, right there in that melee with Austin Dillon and Joey Logano at the end of last year's race. But you have a previous winner in the next gen car in Chris Buescher, who is trying to hold on to that points scenario to get into the playoffs. So I'm looking for RFK to be part of the storyline here going into the Richmond race. But boy, Joe Gibbs Racing and Denny Hamlin specifically have always been so strong at Richmond. I think that's the car that everybody's going to be watching for during practice and qualifying, and to see is Hamlin going to be the guy to beat, and how does the other teams respond?
Final words.
No, I mean, I agree with Bob. I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing will be a team to watch at Richmond. They won 10 of the last 18 races there at Richmond. Hamlin's been so good. You look at what Christopher Bell's done this season. He's finished, if NASCAR had a podium for top 3 finishes, you could say he has 8 podiums in 24 races this season. So he's finished top 3 in a third of the races this year. Now, it's kind of been weird because it's like some races you don't see him as much, and other races he's strong. So even for all that success, there's kind of been a little bit of a up and down, or at least it seems like maybe I've got the wrong perspective, but that's just kind of how I've kind of viewed it with him. But again, that's a really strong team. Chase Briscoe, we've seen what he's done lately. Was it 4 top 5 finishes in the last 5 races? Obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing putting every effort in to get Ty Gibbs into the playoffs. 2 races left to do so. There's been some struggles here lately with the 54 car, and they finished outside the top 20 the last 3 races. But hey, Richmond is a good track to Joe Gibbs Racing. Does that open the door for Ty Gibbs? If not, Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, or Christopher Bell?
Our final word on the Richmond race is going to come from Ford Performance and Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric tells us what kind of racing he expects to find at Richmond this weekend and how aggressive the drivers will be.
Yeah, I think Richmond's one of those racetracks that it's you really have nowhere to hide as far as your performance. So, I mean, every week, man, I'm trying to win the race. That's going to benefit my playoffs, and that's what I'm paid to do. So, and that's what I want to do. So, as far as that goes, that doesn't really change. That's kind of a constant. But as far as how aggressive we might be on strategy throughout the race, there are definitely some opportunities to change things up. Depending on you want to one stop, second and third stage, you want a two stop second, third stage. There is an opening because there's usually is a lot of green flag runs, but because there's a lot of green flag runs and it's such a tricky racetrack, there's not really anywhere to hide if you're not any good. It's a tough racetrack if you're really struggling for performance.
Well, Austin Cindric kind of comes up with the final word. One last comment, Dustin, you write some awesome stuff. I love reading every week. I've told you that more than once. Do you have anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Anything on the teams? Have you come up with anything preliminary, positive and a negative on the teams for this weekend that you'd like to share us as a teaser to read you tonight?
Well, we'll have good news, bad news that comes out on Wednesdays, and so it looks at all the teams and some of the highlights and some of the lowlights of as they go into each race. So have that, and that'll be out on NBCSports.com/NASCAR along with a lot of other coverage. So certainly check it out and come back often.
And with that, let's go ahead and you kind of gave us a teaser where we can find you. One more time, Dustin. We'll do the same for Bob and then myself, and then we'll go to episode 2 for the week.
Yeah, just our copy can be found at NBCSports.com/NASCAR and check it out.
Please do. Bob Francis.
Well, you can find us at gofullthrottle.net. We publish every Friday, Facts and Stats Friday. That's especially for you NASCAR fantasy players, where we make our initial predictions and then we forecast what's going to happen for the weekend. Looking forward to this week's action and publishing that on Friday.
Thank you, Bob. I'm Roy J. Akers with SkyViewSports.net. Also, we produce on the podcast like Zoomcast for High Bank Fury. For Bob and Dustin, I'm Roy J. Akers. We will have another episode for you. We're going to be talking about the NASCAR schedule for 2026. What do we know and what do we hope to know in the next week or so?
Now